Janice Brownby. She was born in a house behind the trading post that they owned. And I think all of her siblings were also born there. They owned a trading post that had Navajo wares, and they lived on the reservation around the Indians, and Mom grew up with all of them. And her mom said that whenever she wanted to find her, all she had to do was look out for the white hair, because everybody else had dark hair and she had just stark white hair. She had 3 sisters, Lenora, Elder, and Eileen, and 1 brother, Nez. And they all worked in the trading post, and they developed a deep appreciation for Navajo wares and jewelry that my mom had for her whole life. She loved anything turquoise, anything, you know, that was Navajo or Indian wear. She loved them forever. She grew up, you know, kind of wild and free, roaming the hills in New Mexico and attending powwows and the Pruitt Rodeo that I just found out about a little while ago, so someone else might remember it more than me. But the Pruitt Rodeo was a major thing when they were young, and her younger cousin told me that they all waited for Kathern to get there to see what she had on and what she was doing, because they were just, she just loved her, am I right? She just loved her older cousins, and just wanted to see what they were up to and how they were dressed, and so it was a major thing that they'd get ready for every year, was the Pruitt Rodeo. Anyway, she loved to hunt. She was excellent with the hunt, with a gun, and she always had one. But her dad was quite chauvinistic, and he didn't want to take her hunting. And they all got up one morning to go hunting, and she wanted to go with them. And he told her she couldn't go, but she didn't even own a gun. So she went into the trading post, grabbed a rifle off the shelf, loaded it, and went with them, and she was the only one that got a deer. She was fiercely independent and strikingly beautiful and stylish, even when she had to sew all of her own clothes. She and her sisters pushed the fashion boundaries by wearing pants instead of dresses, even though she could sew a perfect dress. But you always saw her in jeans, cowboy boots, a hat, but you never saw her with a bra. She did not like wearing it, and it made her dad furious. She left high school, she worked full-time in the trading post, and was married in her early 20s, and at 24 had her first child, which was Kathy. Over the next 7 years, she was pregnant for a total of 54 months, adding Leonard, me, Debbie, Dallas, and Cheyenne to the family in quick succession. She had 6 kids in 5 different towns, because our dad was an insulator, and he was always moving around. And we were always short on money. Money was always tight. But she fed her family with deer meat, antelope, fish, and pinto beans, which she bought in 50-pound bags. And I remember, there's no point in asking what's for dinner, because they was gonna have pinto beans and deer or fish or something. And when we got past the lean years, she would never eat beans. She hated them. So you couldn't get her to eat another bean. She used to cut up deer and elk and salt it and hang it on the clothesline like the Indians did and make turkey. And they would hang out there until it was completely dry with the sheet over it. And then we just go out there and grab a piece off the line and chew on it after school. And all of our friends were like totally shocked. You're doing what? You're eating stuff off the clothesline? But and then when it was all done, we'd take it out and put it in a pillowcase and store it. In the kitchen, she was resourceful and innovative, and Austin said he remembered that she could make soup out of literally anything in the pantry. It looked like there was nothing there, and she could make something. If something needed to be done, she just figured it out. She didn't ask for help, she didn't expect help, she didn't call anyone, she just figured it out. We were way out of town one time fishing, and the car would not start. And they tinkered it with it for a little while, and it was starting to get dark, and my dad figured he better just walk into town and get some help with the car. Well, that's not what Mom does. Mom fixes it. So while he was gone, she kept working on the car, and by the time he got back with help, the car was running. And he wasn't really happy about that. And then we moved to Claremont, which had 110 people, into a big old house. I actually think we moved there to keep Leonard out of trouble. I'm not sure, it was just a little tiny, am I right? That's exactly what we did. It was 45 minutes from the nearest decent grocery store, so we learned to eat things like old milk, and if something had mold, I just cut it off and just keep eating it. Now when I see young people throw something away that's out of date, I'm thinking, geez, we ate stuff that had been out of date for years. I mean, it was just, you just didn't throw it away. It's too far to go get any more of it. If the pipes froze in this old house, which happened all the time, she'd just take a blowtorch and go down into the root cellar and thaw them out. And one time, Leonard and her had to dig by hand a 6 by 6 foot ditch or opening to get to a broken pipe in the backyard and fix it. So there was no money and no one else to fix it, so she's just like, let's just do a hole, get down there and fix it. She worked hard and she expected us to work hard too, and we did, and we still do. Mom was an expert seamstress, a skill she learned from her mother and she passed on to all of us kids. She believed that if something was worth doing, it was worth doing perfectly. And I remember having to pick out seams over and over and over again until they were perfect. But it paid off because we won everything. In 4-H and every other contest with sewing, we always won. Because we had Mom there showing us how to do it. She was emphatically not a helicopter mom. She firmly believed in her children's independence and didn't hover. She let us siblings resolve our own fights and our own problems. Debbie said one of her oldest memories of Mom was, I don't want to make Mom sound like she doesn't have a heart, but she was fighting with our other brother, and I don't know, they were 3 or 4 years old, and he had Debbie's sword had knocked her out, and she said when she woke up, she looked up and Mom was ironing. And Debbie was just passed out on the floor, and I was just ironing, waiting for Debbie to get up. And one time, we'd have to go to town to get groceries, so we're all out in the car getting ready to go get groceries. We're waiting for Kathy, and Kathy comes out in my brand new shirt that I had never worn. And so a huge fight ensued, like hitting, scratching, yelling, all that kind of stuff. And she finally got out of the car and went in to change, and I followed her in. We fought some more. And Mom's just sitting in the car, waiting. She never said a word. Are we going to town or what? So we finally come out. Kathy's changed her clothes. We get in the back, and she goes, okay, we ready to go? I said, okay, we're going to town. So that's the kind of stuff she did when, that's the kind of her parenting was. We used to take off up into the hills. We'd pack lunch and disappear. And I don't know, she never thought to come looking for us or just didn't worry about us. And sometimes we'd spend the night in a cave up there. And I don't think that ever even bothered her. And she's like, have you seen your sister or anything like that? It was just like, they're gone. I remember she saw, we would come home from places and tell her the stuff we'd been doing and what was going on, and she couldn't help but laugh. She would just get caught up in it and laugh at it. And one time, me and a girl that lived with us took the Bronco out. She told us to take the Bronco out and go feed the horses. I know she wanted to bring the horses in. So we drove out there in the Bronco, and bringing them in by hand just sounded like way too much work. So we tied them all over the Bronco. We tied them on the back door and the side doors and everything else. And when we started to go, the horses spooked and bent the front doors all the way back and pulled the whole back door off of the Bronco to where the doors, the thing that was left was a little handful. So when we got home, we kept trying to think, how are we going to break this to Mom and Dad? And we're like laughing so hard that we didn't realize how much trouble we were in because it was so flippin' funny. So we took the thing into Mom, the handle, and we said, Mom, you know that handle on the back of the Bronco that didn't work? well, we fixed it. And we put the hammer on the table. And first she was like, what'd you do? And we said, well, and she looks out the door and she goes, what did you guys do? And we're starting to tell her, and she could not help but laugh. And she was laughing, and she was like, you're gonna get killed. But she's laughing and laughing anyway, so she always could see the humor in things. And she never really panicked, never really worried about anything. And she expected us to be able to do anything. I mean, she just, if she told you to do it, she expected you to do it. So when Carmel was 7, she told her to get on the riding lawnmower and mow the lawn while she was trimming bushes and stuff. So she's riding around on the lawnmower while Mom's trimming bushes, and she runs over one of Mom's bushes and just completely destroys it. And then Mom thought maybe she'd better think that one. 7 may not be old enough to mow the lawn. Danielle said that Mom maybe was not the nicest person, and that's because she said exactly what she thought and was blunt. She said, but I think a lot of that was because she expected everyone to be competent and treated them accordingly. She never dumbed down anything for me or explained things like I was a child, even when I was a child. Chess, cooking, gardening, sewing, sports, cleaning, canning, anything, she explained it to me with the full confidence or the full expectation that one single instructional session should be enough. Maybe it came off as curt or impatient, but I always appreciated her talking to me like it was obvious I didn't understand what she was saying. And I really think that's okay, so all of you husbands, that's what happened to us. That's how we were raised. We just be it. We need to tell you once, and that should be enough. My mom could have been a pioneer. She raised over 100 chickens every year, and she permanently scarred her kids and grandkids through the killing of them. Danielle says one of her clearest memories of Mom was when she would teach us how to behead and pluck chickens in overalls, snug boots, and headscarf, and a full set of makeup. And she swears that this experience was the reason she was a vegetarian for 15 years. You know, I stopped eating meat too. After the chicken ordeal and then cutting up a few deer, I was like, you know, I'm done with this stuff. You guys can eat that meat. And amongst her belongings when she passed was still a little sum for cutting the bone, the breastbone of the chicken, and a knife that she used to skin things with. She wouldn't let them go. She wouldn't let anybody else use them. She loved them. She could grow anything, and she did. In her garden, she grew the most amazing things, but still in the window of our house, she could still grow anything. If we buy the same plant someplace, and hers would be, you know, growing in leaps and bounds, and mine would die like a couple weeks after we got home. The same plant, but there's just something she could do about it. And if she would reupholster furniture, if there was a hole in the couch or something, she'd reupholster the whole couch. And I remember her hands would bleed and stuff, but she'd just do it. She never even thought about asking somebody else to do it. And she would pick berries. If she found berries anywhere, she'd come get all of us kids, and some of the grandkids, she'd get it down, load us in the car, and dump us out there until we picked every berry off of those bushes so that she could can them. And when we moved into this, the house that we moved into in Claremont, it came with the washing machine. And it was one of those washing machines that you pull out and hook up to the sink. And it was a big barrel that would wash it, and then you'd pull the clothes out and put them through those two things that look like rolling pins and squish all the water out of it. And then we'd hang it up outside. And so everything we hung up outside was a wrinkled mess because it had just been through the press. And so we had to iron everything that had been put out there. And I just remember her ironing with, in the beginning, one of those irons that you just sit on the hot plate. And so half the stuff she left in the freezer so that it would iron easier. But she was busy all the time. And in spite of doing all of that, she would show up to school PTA meetings looking like a supermodel. I mean, I have a picture of her in curls, a tweed suit that she sewed herself, high heel black shoes, and her hair all up, done up in makeup, serving coffee at the PTA meeting. So I don't think Claremont had ever seen anything like her, and I doubt that they'll ever see anything like her again. She was into vitamins and natural cures. I mean, she had us taking these things that looked like horse pills when we were just kids, because they had every vitamin known to man inside the horse pill. But she knew how to fix things naturally and with vitamins, and so if you had a problem, she noticed it immediately and would say something about it because she had a cure. She thought she had a cure for it. But she often came off like, if you were working with her or something, she'd say something about your acne, or if you had weight problems, she'd bring it up, or, you know, just whatever, because she felt like she had a solution to it. And she didn't mix words, so she'd just say, you know, you have acne, you should try this. You know, so anyway, a lot of people thought she was offensive, but she wasn't. She was just trying to help. And she always carried guns, more than one. She always something in the glove box, in her purse, under her bed. She always had a gun with her wherever she went. Cheyenne said that when she lived with them in Idaho, there was a rabbit eating her flowers. So Mom went and got a 410 shotgun pistol. He climbed into the house and shot the rabbit. That's just how she was. If something she'd just do it. She loved to bowl, and she was really good at it. And she traveled to tournaments all over the place. And she once bowled a perfect game at a tournament, and she received a jacket for that. And her and Kathy would go to town from Claremont once a week bowl, and they'd time it so where they'd stop off at my other sister's house and watch Days of Our Lives, because they didn't want to miss that one. So they'd have to watch that. If you haven't already noticed, there's a bowl full of bowling pins out there that she won for different things. And if you'd like to take one, we'd like for you to have them, because we don't know what to do with them, so you could take one home. She also played league softball as a pitcher, and they won tournaments all over the state. She was not only beautiful, but she could really pitch, and she was really good at playing. And she was old enough to be the mom of everybody else on the team, because like 3 of the players on the team were her kids. So they were all like our age. And the press loved her. She was like always in the press because it was just amazing what she was doing. She loved books, especially science fiction and fantasy, and she read hundreds of them. And she was a total Trekkie. She loved Star Trek. And she had all the paraphernalia, and she always had it displayed around her house. And Danielle said that Grandma heavily influenced what I read. She was the one who introduced me to fantasy and science fiction, both through books and movies into adulthood. I felt like we connected through books and over our shared love of reading. And it broke my heart when her stroke took reading away from her. I felt that lost in my bones. Carmel also said that Mom got her to read her first book from cover to cover. It was Aragon. It was a fantasy. She also loved to read her scriptures. I don't ever remember going out to her house when her scriptures weren't open on the table, and her Relief Society manual also when she'd been studying it. She loved puzzles, and she always had one on the dining room table, and we'd spend hours fitting pieces together. We'd all go out there and puzzle with her. I mean, at different times we puzzled with her. She loved opera, theater, and she ushered at the Alberta Bear Theater for years because she could go down there and watch everything. And she loved it, and she loved working with them. And she loved classical music, and she couldn't get enough of the 3 tenors. So every time we went out to her house, she was playing something classical or the 3 tenors. She loved it. She excelled at everything she did, except driving. And she was a terrible driver. Every one of us will give you that. And Carmel said she hated it when Mom would come and pick her up from school, because her whole body would immediately shrink when she saw that Mom was out there and that she was going to drive. She was the scariest driver. I don't even know why. She was always paying attention and had both hands on the wheel, but she drove like she was being chased. And I'd say, Grandma, slow down. And she would demonstrate the meaning of selective hearing. But you didn't even just following her somewhere. If you didn't pay close attention, you were lost, because she was gone and she would just take off. She was a tough woman, but she had to be. Even when she softened in later years, her version of nice was pretty brisk. I don't ever remember her putting me on my lap or really spending a lot of time hugging me as a kid, and my siblings don't either, but somehow I always felt loved. She softened as a grandmother, and my kids, all of our grandkids did get hugs from her, and Austin said her hugs always made me feel good. She would give me a spot on the bum when she hugged me, and it always made me feel loved. I loved Mom, and I never thought it was fair that she ended up leaving alone as she aged. I spent more and more time driving out there to see her and to help her, and just to help take care of her. I remember one day I was up in the hills walking my dogs, and I got this phone call from my mom, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm walking my dogs." I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Well, I fell on the steps and I can't get up." She goes, "No rush, I just need some help when you're done." So I go out there, and she's broken her shoulder. We had to go in, she had to have surgery, pins, metal put in her shoulder. And then a few years later, same thing, she calls, "What are you doing?" Carmen said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Not much." Why? She goes, "Well, I fell in the kitchen and I think I've hurt my leg." So Carmel and I drive out there, and she had fallen in the kitchen and dragged herself into the living room to get to the phone, and her leg, it was obviously broken. She had dragged it across, through the kitchen, down the stairs, to the phone, and she was just sitting there waiting for us. She never said, "You guys need to hurry," or "I think I may have broke something, let's call an ambulance." She just said, "I fell in the kitchen, I hurt myself," and so we went out there. And she had a few more falls after that. And then she moved in with us about 5 years ago. And I was grateful for that time with her and for the chance, to give back and to do a little bit for her. We did get her a fall button, so she didn't have to wait for one of us, but she wouldn't wear it around her neck. She put it in her back pocket. And she flushed it down twice. That was after she had accidentally called the ambulance like 5 or 6 times. So they started calling us before they'd go out there. "Is this for real?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what's going on out there." Anyway, she raised her kids to be strong, self-reliant, but also to laugh. And she laughed at a lot of the things we do. She would laugh with us. Mom never remarried or even considered it until she was 92. And then she wanted Kathy and I. Kathy Tisdale, who did the opening prayer, ended up being Mom's best friend in the end. She would come and sit with her 3 days a week, and then Elaine, she'd try and get the 3 of us to find her someone to marry. And I was like, "How are we going to do this?" And she said that she had seen these dating apps on TV. So we tried to set her up a profile on one of these dating apps and go through all the pictures and everything. And me and we're all like, "Oh, this is just way too much trouble. Let's just hope she forgets about this whole dating thing." But every time I'd go to church, she'd say, "Did you find anybody over there?" Or I'd go to the temple, "Was there anybody there?" And I'm like, "I'm just wondering, why did you wait till you're 92? Did he such a want to get remarried?" So she looked like grit, skill, beauty, and humor, and she could do anything, fix anything, and face everything. She would work till she was so tired. We had a yard, I don't know how big was that yard, Leonard? Half an acre, something like that. And she would mow it, trim it, rake it, do all of that stuff. And then she'd come sit down on the couch, and within seconds was sound asleep, and she'd sleep for like 30 minutes. And then she'd jump up and take over where she left off. And that's the way she lived her entire life. She just would take small breaks and get up and get back at it, even after something would break or after a stroke. Mom's family was huge, and she's been talking to them, the people that have passed on at least for the last 6 months, maybe longer. And we'd talk about the people that she was seeing and that she was talking to. And about, I don't know, like 4 weeks ago, she was talking to her sisters who have all passed, and her mom. And I said, "Mom, why didn't you just go with them?" And she looked at me absolutely horrified, and she said, "They're dead. I can't go there." So it got difficult with Mom, but I won't lie. I mean, there was little things like she always thought I stole her socks or her pants. But there were other things that got more difficult, and there were times when we discussed a nursing home seriously. And I would think to myself, what would Mom do? Oh, I know what Mom would do. She'd just do it. She'd just do whatever it took. You know, she wouldn't even consider having someone else carry the burden. She'd just do it herself. So I just kept her there, and we took care of her, and it was an honor to take care of her and to be there with her. And she fought it. You know, she had multiple strokes. I think in the end she probably had 5. And she broke so many things and fell down so many times. And she just kept getting back up and kept fighting. She just wanted to live. She just wanted to keep going, and she refused to believe until really close to the end that she wasn't going to fully recover. And I remember she said to us one morning, am I not going to get any better than this? And we didn't really know how to answer that because, I mean, she'd been like that for so long. It was just finally dawned on her that maybe she was not going to make a full recovery and get back into action. Anyway, I loved her. Her family loved her. I'm going to miss her. I'm grateful I had this time the time with her, and that I got to know her a lot better, hear a lot of her stories, and they say you learn to love the people that you serve, and I loved her more and more every day that I served her, and I'm grateful that she was my mom.